Have you already failed your New Year's resolutions or feeling like life is just getting in the way of those goals or objectives you set yourself just a couple of weeks ago? Well, it turns out you're not on your own. A survey of over 20,000 Americans showed that it took just 32 days on average for people to fail against their New Year's resolutions, citing things like lack of discipline, no time, and busy schedules. So if you've got that goal in mind that you set yourself that you really want to stick to, stay tuned to this video because I'm going to be sharing some lessons from Seth Godin's book, The Dip, where he talks about what to do when you lose the initial motivation and what to do next. Welcome, and if you're new here, I'm Kieran Panchal, and here on this channel I help you navigate the crazy decade that is your 20s. So if you're trying to figure out life just like me, consider joining me on this journey by subscribing down below. So you started off the year with great intentions. This year is going to be your year. We've all said it to ourselves in the mirror, whether it is to save more money, invest more money, live a healthier lifestyle, or just read more books. We all set ourselves those goals. And in the first couple of weeks of January, we are buoyed by that excitement that is gonna come when we achieve that goal and how much better our life is gonna be. However, inevitably, a couple of weeks into January, life hits us in the face. The kids are back to school, we're back to work, the emails start flowing in, the projects kickstart again. And those goals that you set yourself just a couple of weeks ago, honestly seem like distant memories. And with the chaos that is the world around us, it seems like it's very difficult and almost impossible how you can chart a path through the messy forest that is your life and all of our lives to how the hell you're actually going to achieve that objective throughout this year. And so this is the point at which you enter the dip, which Seth Godin describes as the long stretch between initial motivation and actual accomplishment. Once you enter the dip, you've really got two possible options. The first is to continue and persevere. In the book, Seth talks about this as the reason you should want to continue is because the reward at the end is great enough that it justifies the time and effort that you put in the dip, where you won't be seeing any reward, you won't be getting any gratification, but you carry on working because you know at the end that reward is big enough that it's going to have a significant impact on your life. But the other option is to just quit. Last year, I experienced this exact dilemma. It was around about September and FIFA 22 was coming out and I was launching a new gaming channel, KP Games. It was going to be the home of FIFA entertainment, all things FIFA. Kieran was going to play all sorts of FIFA series and it was going to be fantastic. But inevitably, after the initial motivation and the initial hype of the game disappeared, when the views weren't so high, the subs weren't so high in a very saturated market for FIFA, the initial motivation went and I was left with this dilemma of being in the dip and figuring out whether that gaming channel was something that I wanted to continue with as well as this channel, or whether I actually had to quit that channel and put all of my eggs in and focus on this one channel. And as you guys would have seen, the result of that was that I decided to quit that channel, put it down, and actually focus solely on this one. Now, quitting can sometimes be seen as a really negative thing, like, oh, you started something, you didn't finish something. But in this case, the way I try to think about it and the way that Seth Godin talks about it in The Dip is that quitting is a very healthy thing to do. If we carried on everything that we started, we would ultimately never finish anything. And so quitting, and what I like to call maybe stopping rather than quitting, because quitting has some kind of negative connotations, but I think quitting that channel has allowed this channel to get a lot better. And so if you're facing that dilemma where maybe you've set yourself too many goals, trying to focus on the ones that you think are most important to you and the ones that are going to have the most significant impact to your life is much better than trying to achieve so many different things at the same time. This idea of quitting is probably the most talked about thing in the book. Now, we've all seen the influential speakers, the motivational speakers, the influencers talk about hustle culture. You can't give up, you have to carry on, because if you quit, you're a loser and you're gonna feel like a failure. But in the book, Seth just talks about how this itself is toxic in itself. If you carry on everything, you will ultimately just fail at everything and never succeed. And so he adopts the approach and talks about how you should kind of pick one thing and try to become as successful at that thing as possible. Now, in the book, he talks about becoming the best in the world. You should only do something if you want to become the best in the world at something. And I kind of disagree with this slightly. I think the way I would put it is you don't necessarily have to pick the one thing that you can become the best in the world at, But I think you need to pick the goal or objective that you can put your best self into, that you can put your absolute most energy and conviction into, because those are ultimately the only goals that are going to succeed. If you have a goal that you don't put your full self into, unfortunately, you are just never going to achieve that goal. And I've realized this setting goals around, reading books and things like this. I haven't put my whole self into it, and I've kind of always been a bit reserved about it. And so I've never achieved them. And so this year, I've decided to focus a lot more on a core set of goals and objectives that I think will have the most significant impact on my life, and I'm going all in. The same study we talked about at the beginning of this video said that February the 1st was the day by which most people had quit their New Year's resolutions. And so if over the next couple of weeks, you're facing that dilemma, feeling like some of those goals that maybe you set yourself, you're falling short of, ask yourself, which of the goals that you set are you putting your full and best self into? Now, if there are some goals that you're already doing that, I strongly advise to continue those. That's exactly what I'm doing, and that's exactly what Seth talks about in the dip as well. But for those goals and objectives that you set yourself, and that now that life has kind of started again, you've either forgotten about or are not putting your all into, those are ones to consider quitting. And remember, quitting is not a bad thing. And so if you do stop them, it's not the end of the world. And actually you can see it as a positive thing that allows you to give even more energy to those goals and objectives that you really, really want to focus on this year. No matter which goals you decide to continue and persevere with through the rest of this year, you're going to have to move into the next step, which is turning your motivation into momentum and habits. And so if you want to know how to do that, I'll link a video up here which I made on that exact topic about how you can create healthy habits to make sure that you keep doing things as part of your routine rather than relying on motivation. So good luck with your goals for this year. Let me know in the comments below what some of your goals and objectives are and the things you're doing to make sure you hold yourself accountable and achieve those. Whatever you do, whether you decide to continue or whether you choose to quit, I'm sure it will be the right decision for you.